Hey y'all, today we have a familiar face, a familiar voice in a second. For those of you who are just listening, it is Jovan Alford, who's been covering Philly sports and sports in general for some years now. Jovan, tell the people about yourself a little bit.
Yeah, so I'm back. I'm back on the show again for another episode. I'm excited to be back on. I know the first time we was on, talking about the Eagles and what was looking at what's going to happen Monday night against
Yes.
the Vikings. A lot has
Yes.
happened and changed then. So
Hmm.
yeah, I'm happy to be back on. Talking Philadelphia sports and excited, very excited.
So something to be excited about, and so for people, if you're a Martian who landed tonight and didn't know why people are using the word excited, the Philadelphia Phillies first stop here. Philadelphia Phillies went up in their series. You may be listening to this later in the week. I think you'll still be listening. I believe you'll be listening with the Phillies still in the lead in the series, but. Jovan, what are you most surprised by? The Phillies are so far 3-0, undefeated in the postseason. That is not going to stick. And the
No.
Eagles also. We'll get to this later for the listeners. The Eagles being undefeated is not going to stick. But what are your thoughts on the Phils, the Fightins?
I think just for me in general, I'm excited for them to be back in the postseason. And I tell people this all the time: they're playing with house money, right? Nobody expect them to be there. The fact that they got in is like you already like accomplished something. Then you take both games in St. Louis without having to go into Game 3, so you already exceeded expectations. Because probably nobody's like, man, like you're taking on the Cardinals, Arenado, Goldschmidt, like Pujols. I mean, they were trying to run that narrative down in that series with them 2 games with Michael Kay and Alex Rodriguez. That's all they talked about. Albert Pujols, Yadier Molina. Even when the Phillies won Game 2, they were still talking about Albert
And
Pujols.
then it got
player.
real scary for a second for the people who didn't get to watch it play by play as much and love it as much as we do, because the Phils go up 6-2, and then Yadier Molina and Pujols get hits in the bottom of the ninth. And they score a run. They almost scratch one across, just like the game today with the Braves, where the Braves almost come back and they just pulled them off just enough.
Yeah, and I think that's really been cool to see, because I don't think this team. This is a different team. I feel like we didn't see this team at the beginning of the year that like scratched and clawed, and they don't get down on each other. They continue to fight, and I also like that they're playing small ball. I felt like early in the season they were just like home run or bust, like we're hitting home runs and that's it. And it's like, no, this team is like hitting with runners in score position, which they did horribly.
Bunting
In the wild card.
great bunts.
Yes, Matt Burling.
Oh,
right. They're doing the little things, and I think that's helped them. Obviously that helped them take Game 1, because like we said, the Braves, they came back in the ninth inning. Matt Olson, I don't even think he knew he hit a home run. I thought that was going to be one of those like, all right, is it going to bounce off the wall and come back into play, or is Brandon Marsh, because the way he was lining it up, like he was going about to catch it and it went over the wall. So you're like, all right, they start to panic. It's like 7-6. But for me, I didn't feel no panic. I was like, they're all right. They got this. They weirdly got this. And I think that's the thing. Like, they just exude confidence when they're on the field now, and they're just playing complimentary, baseball right now, which is great to see.
So the Eagles play the Cowboys on this during the same weekend in Philly that the Braves are supposed to be in town. Do you believe that the Phillies, before, during, or after, are the Phillies going to beat the Braves before, during, or after, or not at all from when the Cowboys are in town?
Ooh, I want to say Cowboys game on Sunday. They'll probably get in town Saturday.
Yeah.
So I'll say it's during the weekend. I feel like the Phillies might lose tomorrow, just because the Braves know the situation. Phillies already did their job. You come away with the split and you're good. So I think the Braves will come back and take Game 2, but I don't think it's going to be a easy win by no means. And I think the Phillies take care of business at home. They have their aces on the mound.
Both times?
Yeah, Wheeler and Nola. I think they're playing. They're pitching really well. Really good baseball. I mean, Suarez wasn't had his best stuff, but I think the way Nola and Wheeler showed how they can maneuver and pitch, you know, two guys like Goldschmidt and Arenado, they can carry that over to this Braves lineup who, you know, didn't look so hot, but we can't expect them to just stay cold. There's not going to be many times that who had what Austin Riley goes 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts. That's not going to happen, you know, multiple times. So I think they get it done. I think Phillies in 4. I think Phillies get it done in 4.
I think it's lost on a lot of people that they are the defending World Series champs. They did lose Freddie Freeman because of some unimaginable contract snafu. I mean, if what is reported is true, I don't think a client has ever been more pissed with the manager.
Oh yeah,
you know what I'm talking about,
right? Yeah. That whole situation was just weird because you just never thought, even after they won, like Freddie Freeman's not going to leave Atlanta. Like this guy is
seriously.
He's like when you think Atlanta Braves baseball, like
he's
this
like
current
Chipper.
like decade, yeah, he's like that dude. And to see him, like you said, with that whole snafu leave, and then it's like, all right, we're gonna go get Matt Olson as his replacement. It's like, okay, like Matt Olson's okay, but he's not Freddie Freeman who can give you like 20, 25 home runs, hit like over 300, play good defense at first. He could do it all. So yeah, people forget about that. And it's so messed up too that the Braves get like the worst time slots to be a defending World Series champion. I mean, 1 o'clock in the afternoon and then 4 tomorrow. Come on now.
It's tomorrow is better than the game that was at 1 o'clock.
That was bad. That was a bad time. That was a horrible time.
I mean, people were saying it all over on Twitter. One of my favorite, of course, Devin Caney. She's pretty funny. She said, you know, that and MLB wants to mix it up and get the younger people involved. You know, get people to like the game, and then you put a game at 1 o'clock.
Right.
So
I guess they're competing for ratings against like Young and the Restless. So
yeah, that's just odd. So the Eagles remain the only unbeaten team in the NFL. But if you take the Eagles out, let's start off here. Who's the most intimidating team that you believe is next best to the Eagles? If you would say that the Eagles are the best.
That's a good question. That was one I was thinking about and getting ready for the show. I was like, who is the second team? Because you can't say the Vikings because they already beat them and they beat them handily. Green Bay, I don't know, just because their wide receivers they really miss Devontae. Let me just say that. They really miss Devontae, and it's like really showing.
And he misses them
right now. Yes, he does. And it's just yeah. They should have won that game too, but that's Las Vegas is a whole another story there. So if I think a second team, I'm going to say the Cowboys. I'm going to say the Cowboys just because the way they've been able, and granted, the teams that they played, you know, in these first 5 games haven't been the greatest.
You can only beat who you play,
right? Exactly. You can only beat who you play, and I think they've done an excellent job, you know, holding the fort down without Dak Prescott. You know, they've kind of like changed their offense a little bit, which I think it's interesting, and I hope they continue to do that when Dak comes back. And it's the defense. I think their defense has really helped them, you know, kind of maintain. So I think the Cowboys right now, because I can't say anybody in the NFC West because that's just I don't know what to make of that division right now.
Well, speaking of the NFC West, the 49ers they're tied now. The Eagles had the best point differential before going into last week, but now they're tied in second with the 49ers. You think who is the class? You said that's a mess, but who is the class of the NFC West?
I mean, you probably got to give the edge to the Niners right now just because they did beat Seattle and the Rams, you know, both handedly at home. Granted, it was at home, it wasn't on the road, but they were able to get the job done. I want to believe in Arizona, but I can't just because I just know how up and down Cliff Kingsbury and Kyle Murray, how that team can just be. They start off good, then they're bad. They've now started off so I expect them to maybe become good again. I don't know. The Rams, that's just Yeah, they're just very weird this year. So I gotta give it to the nine. I think the Niners right now, if they don't suffer any more injuries to that backfield, I mean, if they lose Jeff Wilson Jr. and is now down to like Tevin Coleman, then we're having a whole different discussion there. I can't believe he's back. Having a whole different discussion there. But right now I'm gonna give it to the Niners. Hopefully the Seahawks make some noise because I've been very proud of them too with the way they played through 5 games.
Gino is playing the best football of his career.
He looked really good. I mean, who would have thought that Geno Smith would be out playing Russell Wilson?
By a lot, honestly.
By a lot. And he's been efficient. He's been efficient too. I think he's completed like 75% of his passes, haven't turned the ball over. I mean, he's been lightening up. And even, the game against the Lions, I mean, every game with the Lions is going to be a shootout. But even last week's game against the Saints, they battled. And I think, that's a testament to, them and their quarterback. So hopefully they continue to make some noise. But right now, it's the Niners division to lose.
If you, on first things first, Nick Wright does these like swaps. They take the faces off the stats. And if before the season you showed me Geno Smith's stats and said, put them up there, like you got these two players, I would have you wouldn't be able to tell me that Geno Smith has the far superior numbers to Russell and the eye test. It's not just numbers, y'all. If you're listening, you don't get a chance, you listen to the show. Thank you. When you watch it, it is night and day. Russell Wilson looks like somebody who's on the brink of being a backup NFL quarterback. If you just said his name was Tommy Thompson and he was the quarterback, you take the name off, he's like player from the old NBA Live where Michael Jordan was player number 99. Russell Wilson has not been good. He would not be a good player in that game.
He hasn't been good, and I think that's been the most surprising part, just because when you came into the season and you looked at what Denver had at wide receiver, at running back, and shoot, even at tight end, you would think that it would click, but it's not clicking. And I think part of that is, Wilson, apparently he's hurt, which we didn't know. So we know that he's hurt now. And I think it's also that head coach too. I don't think Nathaniel Hackett is not the guy right now for that quarterback and for that team.
I mean, some of these decisions are just boneheaded decisions, and the Ravens lost the same way a couple of days later, so it makes it look less bad that you had the chance to tie the game with about a few seconds left, and and then Harbaugh went out there and was like, oh well, that means I trust my defense. I don't understand how that works. You give your defense the lead.
Well, remember Harbaugh. Remember last season, the Ravens lost so many 1-point games because of what Harbaugh decided not to do. And you would think the decision would be easier when you have a Hall of Fame kicker in Justin Tucker, who's like automatic. Doesn't matter where you at. He'll pretty much hit the field goal for you. So coaches outthink themselves a lot of times.
So we were talking about the NFC West a second ago, and the Rams came up, and then they didn't really come up because they were in the conversation. You had to say their name because they're in the division. Are we at the point where, you and I and other people who just watch the sport, are we saying now that the Rams are just maybe a bad or a so-so football team this year? They are not going to repeat based on
I don't think they're going to repeat because, number one, that running game still hasn't gotten going, which is kind of surprising because you do have two solid running backs in Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson Jr., who both have not done well in fantasy either. And I know we talked about that too. They have not done what any of us expected to be. And part of that also is the offensive line. That offensive line is not the same than it was last year. And I think we're seeing, that kind of trickle down effect. Offensive line can't protect, and Matthew Stafford is on his back multiple times, and he's throwing interceptions. And Allen Robinson's a non-factor after you sign him to this like 3-year deal. He's a non-factor, and Tyler Higbee now the team's second leading receiver behind Cooper Kupp. It's not the same team. And even defensively, they've had some struggles on the back end too. So yeah, this is not that Rams team. I think they might skate in to get into the playoffs as like a wild card team, but right now it's not. They're not looking too great.
What if they go and get Odell? What if they figure out the salary cap to go get back a player who did play well? Because first, if people remember correctly, they had Robert Woods. Robert
Yep.
Woods was cooking. Robert Woods was always cooking, even with Cooper Kupp was there.
And they really miss him. I think they really miss him too.
So they wanted to pair Odell with Robert Woods and with Cooper Kupp. They wanted to kind of completely blow the top off the NFL. The same week Odell gets there, Robert Woods gets hurt.
Yep.
Now Woods is gone. Woods is in Tennessee. Mm-hmm. Odell is gone. He's recovering from his injury, I guess. Why is he not there? Is it because he doesn't want to play on that turf, or what's the deal there?
I think he's still rehabbing from that injury, because I think wasn't it ACL in the Super Bowl?
It was.
So we're thinking that was February. So he's almost at a year, but
yeah.
So that's a close window for him. So yeah, I mean, losing Robert Woods doesn't help. Not having Odell doesn't help. And even Van Jefferson. Haven't seen Van Jefferson this season either. And he's kind of that guy that kind of can stretch that field vertically. And I think that's also hurting them too. They don't have someone that can stretch the field, and just say, I just need you to run deep. Like Cooper Kupp can do it, but you want Cooper Kupp to do a myriad of things.
They had Brandon Cooks some years ago who used to play that role too.
Brandon Cooks. I mean, talk about a guy who's just somehow just consistent everywhere he goes. He's even consistent in Houston, and that's probably because he's the only wide receiver there. But I digress. But
that's his job.
Brandon Cooks is just Brandon Cooks. He's people just don't remember him because it's just like he was here, he was there.
He's a 65 catch, 913 yard, 4 touchdown receiver. That's who he is. That's what he does.
He's always a good get in fantasy too. If you can get him, he's going to get all the targets, all the yards, and still might score a touchdown.
Yeah. So the Rams are bad. So you think that they get in, but they get in 9-8, not a 10-7, not 11-6.
Yeah, I don't see it. I don't see it, just because you just look at their division. Their division is tough. I mean, you look at the records in the division. Everybody's kind of just jumbled up, like one game apart from each other, and I think that's just indicative of just how tough it is. I mean, you look at their schedule. Next 5 games, you got Panthers, Niners, Bucks, Cardinals, Saints. That's not. I mean, there might be Panthers as a win. We can give them the Panthers.
A good team rattles off at least 4 of those.
Yes.
If you're talking about a good team,
yes.
Somebody I'm saying is a good. Those are wins. You didn't name anybody who should be like, oh, I don't know, I'm gonna sweat it out.
Right, but this year's team, you kind of have to sweat it out, and then after you get past the Saints, you have the Chiefs right after that. So I mean, they might, that 6-game stretch, they might go 3-3, maybe. And 3-3 only puts them at
they're 2-3 now, so 3-3,
5-6.
5-6, yeah, 5-6,
and that's not crazy to think that it could happen.
At that point, the Niners are going to have, in 11 games, the Niners are going to have 7 at least. They're going to be a couple up on them at that point. So Tom Brady, the other calls that have come down this weekend, are you kind of with your skeptical hat on, or did you think that some of those were legitimate calls and that was some of social media kind of blowing things out of proportion?
That Tom Brady call, I was super skeptical about. I didn't understand how that was a roughing the passer to anybody. Even I think I was watching Red Zone. Even Scott Hansen couldn't believe what he had saw. Like, it was a regular sack. It was a sack. He didn't throw him to the ground. He just sacked him, and then boom, roughing the passer. That's the game right there. On a 3rd down, nonetheless, that's game right there. If they do that.
Because what had happened was I think the Bucks went up 21-0, and the Falcons rattled off 15 straight. They were about to get the ball back. It was third down.
Yep.
It was 3rd and 6. The guy sacks him, and then
15-yard penalty.
Tom throws an incompletion, flat out incompletion, tries to throw out of it. I don't. And then somebody proposed the idea like if you could make the roughing the passer a reviewable play, but it's so subjective. I don't know what a review would really do for you.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's like pass interference, right? Pass interference is like a subjective play. Even though I think in like the CFL, you can actually like challenge like pass interference. But again,
there's some that are egregious, but
right. Yeah. That right there, the Grady Jarrett sack, that should have been a sack. They should have got the ball one more time. But the skeptic hat with the tinfoil on says, yeah, the league wanted to make sure Brady was, that they got out there and escaped with a win. Because if we want to be real, the Falcons probably could have like came down and tied it. I don't know if they would have, but with the way they were coming back, it would have put a scare into the Buccaneers.
I was very much very skeptical, since we're using that word, about the call that they made to go for it. It was they scored the second touchdown. It was 13. It was 13-21. They went for 2. I was like, what is go 15-21? What does that do for you? But then later it kind of, I don't know. I guess it you go up by a point. You go up by a point instead of tie the game with the touchdown.
Yeah, I guess that's what they're saying. Like, all right, we scored a touchdown on the road. We'll take our chances on defense instead of trying to go into overtime with Tom Brady.
Wow. Yeah, they got hosed. And the Falcons are not they're not like a good team this year, but that is what you watch. That's why everybody watches football. You want to see those opportunities happen. The viewer needs to see the Falcons get the ball back. And what if, whoever throws the pick? Okay, well, we had a great game, but you don't want to see the Zebras make the calls.
Right.
So, are you going to watch the Thursday night game, the Bears and the Commanders?
I don't know, man. I don't know. That's not a great matchup on paper. It's not a great matchup. And don't get me wrong, I like Justin Fields a lot. I just don't like the team that they put around him so much. And that's what makes it hard for me to watch this game. It's not, like I said, it's not an appealing matchup on paper. The Bears, they played hard last week, but again, they haven't done much to put Justin Fields in the best way to possibly succeed. And then the Commanders, I mean, come on, they're the Commanders at this point. Like, they're just not an inspiring team to be like, yeah, you know what, Thursday night I'm going to watch, Commanders Bears. It was like the same thing last week with like Colts and Broncos. You're like, oh, Colts and Broncos on? I don't know. I don't want to watch that.
At least you had Russell Wilson last week, though. You were like, Russell's at some point, I think everybody has in the back of their mind, like, Russell's going to go off one of these weeks, right?
He's going to like turn around. He's going to, let Russ cook. He's, going to throw the moon ball down the field to KJ Hamler, and everything's going to be back to normal. But no, I haven't happened.
Not in this game on Thursday. Nobody's like.
Nobody wasn't trying to score touchdowns in that game. Everybody was kicking field goals.
And then
it almost went to another tie for the Colts. This
one, nobody's thinking Justin Fields is about to go off. Nobody's thinking Carson Wentz is about to go off. It's going to be a 16-19.
Carson Wentz might get benched. Who knows?
What do you think about that? Do you think that that's what ends up happening here?
I mean, I forgot who put me on to it. I think my mom told me. She's like, did you hear what like the Washington head coach said about Carson Wentz? I was like, no, I didn't. So I know there was like some type of like comment he said about like the quarterback or something, like basically like throwing him under the bus, but he didn't really mean to. And I mean, granted, this is who Carson Wentz is. Like, he's not a star quarterback. He's not a bad quarterback. He's just he's average.
Right.
He's average right now. And if you're Washington, you have to start weighing, the pros and cons of like, all right, if this season continues to go down the drain. I mean, he threw an interception in the game last week. So I mean, and he's taken a ridiculous amount of sacks, like the same issues that he had in Indy that he still haven't cleaned up now.
It's going to take. I'm buying stock. If he gets benched, I'm buying stock in Carson Wentz at that point, because I believe that if you get Carson Wentz to understand that just play like Nick won the Super Bowl with your team. You didn't win it. You got a ring, but it's not yours. And he was a lesser than player, trait wise, Madden rating wise.
Yeah.
Carson Wentz can actually make every throw on the football field. It's his mental capacity. It's his ability.
It's the way he looks at the field, his progressions that you would think he would have fixed, and he still haven't fixed to make the correct plays. And it's like you said, when will that light bulb go off? Like, just got to simplify the game. I mean, there's so many quarterbacks like Geno Smith. He's made the game look simple. And granted, he has DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, but he doesn't have a great offensive line, but he knows where he's going with the football. And I think that's the thing with Carson Wentz. He's not doing those little things to help himself out. So,
because what got him into the league is it's the stature. It's like the way the very nice looking drop back, his
big
rocket arm. Yeah.
Yep.
It looks nice. It's nice and crisp spiral, and he's more focused on that than making the right play.
Right. And sometimes the right play is, and I think we say this with all quarterbacks, right? Sometimes the right play is not the play that's developing like 10, 15 yards down the field. It's the play right there. It's the play right in front of you. It's okay to take the check down. It's okay to throw the ball away and not have an interception. I mean, I like that Aaron Rodgers does that. There's a reason why Aaron Rodgers doesn't have a lot of interception. Just throws it away. If it ain't there, throws it away. Jalen Hurts is the same way. The play's not there. He's either going to run to pick up some yards, or he's just going to throw it away and try to, play for the next down. That's something Carson Wentz doesn't do. He still tries to have the YOLO moment with the ball, and it's like, no, don't do it. Don't do it. Oh, okay, he's about to do it. Gotta let him do it.
A lot of people like Carson Wentz have came and gone. People who think that, they had the biggest arm ever, they're going to throw, just throw the bomb or laser it there. And the game is more mental than it is physical.
100% mental. It's the intangibles, right? Mm-hmm. You have to be a competent quarterback in the NFL. You have to have the intangibles, and you have to, just be able to see the game from a mental aspect. Because like you said, we've seen so many quarterbacks have the big arm and the quickness, and they can do it all, but you can't go through your progressions and hit that second read or hit that first read and say, all right, it's first down, I picked up 5 yards, great, let's try to move to 2nd and 5 and try to move the ball. Instead, you're thinking 1st and 10, I gotta throw it down the field 30 yards. Like, it's football. You can make it easy on yourself, and you haven't done that. So I mean, it wouldn't be surprised if we see Sam Howell or Taylor Heinicke maybe in the next few weeks if things don't get turned around there.
So going to the Birds, good football teams.
Very good football team.
Did Milton Williams block the kick, or did the Arizona kicker Amendola, did he shank it? Because I saw some screen grabs that looked like a hand would be where the ball was going. I haven't seen are they suppressing the video? What's going on?
I don't know. This is something I went back on YouTube and I rewatched the highlights, and when I got to that exact point, I slowed it down. I pressed pause to see, did the hand, I saw the hand go up, but did the ball move because of the hand, or did Amendola shank it? Because when we look, remember during the game, they showed him he was shanking kicks in the pregame.
off wide left. He was taking them wide left.
And that's very concerning. I was like, hold up. No, this guy's shaking kicks in the pregame. This ain't good. I'm like, this ain't
there's no pressure.
No
there's
pressure.
No blocking, anything.
So maybe we can chalk it to, it was a little bit of both. Milton Williams got the ball up there, and the ball was already going to be shanked because he was missing them in pregame. So
he was already missing it, and it got tipped.
We gotta roll with that, because I don't want to give Amendola, that much that much shade because I know it's tough out here being a pro kicker.
You said you don't want to give him shade. That's the most shade. You were already missing the kick, but it's like you were already going to airball, but the dude just swatted it anyways. It's like,
I'm just saying, I don't want to make Amendola feel more bad, man. It's hard. Like I said, it's hard to be an NFL kicker. If you're not a starter, then you just out here floating to see you can get a job somewhere. So, I mean, but yeah, that's not a good look for him. Not a good look.
Well, the Eagles backup kicker they got up off somebody's practice squad. He did what he needed to do. He wasn't shanking kicks.
Hey, and Dicker the kicker, we trust.
That's right. And do you think that we'll need to trust him again?
I think so. I mean, we haven't seen anything about Jake Elliott coming up this week, and he took a really nasty hit in that Jags game. And I think if you're the Eagles, I don't think you rush him back just because we saw how Dicker was able to knock those 2 field goals in, got a touchback on those kick returns. He did those things. So you're like, all right, cool. Like we can kind of let Elliott, get back and healthy. Because the worst thing you can do if this is, it's an ankle injury, you don't want to rush him back. So I think you got a very good backup that you can call in and say, hold down the fort for a few weeks, and we'll see how it goes.
I like where you're going. I like Philly sports fans were a little sentimental, and we like to have the unlikely star, the mix of the brew and everything. But if the game against the Cowboys comes down to a 54-yard field goal, I don't know if we're trotting out Dicker the kicker. I don't know if that.
Probably not, right? Probably not. But you never know. But here's the thing. But say if he makes it though.
Oh, he's a legend.
You know what I'm saying? You're like, sorry, legend. Jake Elliott. You my man's and all.
Jake is welcome back as soon as possible, right. But yeah. They're going to carry 2 kickers.
I mean, shoot. I'm just saying they probably. I mean, you might have to because if Dicker, makes some clutch kicks and they end up making a run that ends in back in Arizona, then. I mean, he'll play a part. I mean, he'll get a ring if it gets to that point. I'm just saying.
Can you justify keeping a second kicker to cut like a Tyree Jackson or somebody else like that, like Tyron Johnson?
Nah, you can't.
Dicker the kicker is going to have to be.
It's a great story. It's a great story. But that's the thing, right? When you have a good football team, you can have like these type of discussions because it's not like, oh my God, this team's 0-5. They're 2-5. This coach ain't doing what he's supposed to be doing. These wide receivers ain't catching. It's like, no, hey, we got the backup kickers, like
right.
Playing well.
We keep this good backup kicker? That's the controversy right now.
You probably put him on practice squad. You can practice squad him because I don't see. I mean, it would be just some crazy coincidence that another kicker would get hurt somewhere in the NFL.
But what about Arizona? What if they're like, we need Dicker the kicker? Like, we're tired of Amendola. He did shake it before he blocked it. I listened to that Jovan Alford dude, and he was shaking it before Milton Williams blocked it. Let's get Dicker the kicker.
So I mean, that would be a funny story. he like a couple weeks prior, Cameron Dicker hit the game-winning field goal against the Cardinals. Now he's wearing a Cardinal jersey 3 weeks later.
Right. And he's indoor. It's an indoor stadium. That's why that's
yeah. Like you said, you can make the case that Milton Williams probably, gave that ball a little block that went the other direction. But again,
any
like
little
said,
block is a block kick. There ain't no both to me. If he got a finger on it, then he stopped that from happening.
But it was shanked. Multiple times in pregame. That's the other issue that we're having. That's the other issue we're having here. We're like, hold on, like he shanked in pregame
by himself. There was the only girl. Oh my gosh! So, what about the other mistake as we were getting close to, the end of that game? There, you have Kyler Murray escaping. He escapes the pocket, rushes up the middle of the field, and gives himself up short of on on second down and then spikes it on third down immediately. Are you going to chalk that up to just, happenstance, just a rough outing, a rough time? Or are you going to say Kyler Murray, this is once again Kyler Murray maybe, doing too much Call of Duty or not knowing, not being you know, uh, I don't want to, go after his intelligence, but his love of the game, or, you know,
Listen,
is it charge it to his heart or charge it to his brain?
listen. I know Modern Warfare comes out, so but we're not going to put the blame on that. Even though I thought it was so funny that there was a commercial ad for that game on Eagles Cardinals. I thought that was just some weird coincidence. But no, I think he just got caught up in the moment and just didn't know. And I think I think we see it happen in sports all the time. You got to know time and situation. And I think in that moment he didn't know what time and situation was. He probably just thought, I gave myself up. Uh-oh. All right, I got to get to the line. I got to do something. And he just, instead of trying to go for the first down, he clocks it and you on fourth, and that leads to the Amendola, miss kick there. So I'm gonna lean towards that. He didn't do a good job in timing situation.
Okay. Just charge it to his brain then. A
Yeah.
momentary, he lost himself in the moment.
Yeah, he's probably thinking I gave myself up. I gotta get back, gotta get everybody huddled up, gotta get everybody lined up on the line of
Mhm.
scrimmage and let it play out that way.
Yeah, tough. I mean, he did not give himself up. So he definitely would have got the first if he just, he could have slid a million different ways and that would have been a first down. That's
Exactly.
rough. I asked you about Jake Elliott earlier, whether he'll be back, and it sounds like you think no reason to rush it. What about Avonte Maddox? Josiah Scott has played well, by the way. Josiah Scott, I think he's playing very well in the slot. But do you think that Avonte Maddox could be ready to be back?
I mean, hopefully he can come back. This would be if he doesn't play Sunday night, be a third game missed, I think. So
Yep.
that's a long time. Hopefully he gets a couple practices in. I mean, the game's on Sunday night, so we do have a good window. I think, we'll see. Hopefully he's at least a limited participant by like Thursday or Friday, where we can be like, all right, he's limited, he's doing some things. All right, I think he'll have a chance to play. But right now it's too early. You hope that he can play because that Cowboys, wide receiver core, they still got CeeDee Lamb. Michael Gallup, this is going to be his third game back. He's starting to round in the form a little bit more. And they do have another guy in Noah Brown who, before Michael Gallup came back, he was playing really well and had a good connection with, Cooper Rush. So hopefully they can get him back because when you have Maddox, Slay, and Bradbury all playing together, one of the better trios in the secondary in the NFL.
You do expect, and you said Cooper Rush there. You're expecting to play against Cooper Rush?
Yeah, I don't see. I would be shocked if Dak, comes back. I thought there's a possibility that he may come back. Last week, but I think they said initially his injury was like 2 to 6 weeks. I mean 6 to
4 to 6, I
8.
think.
Yeah, 4 to 6. Yeah, 4 to 6. And that injury happened in week
One.
one?
It was week
Yeah,
1. It was the first game of the year
yeah.
with the
So we're
against the Bucks.
right. So we're getting to that time where he could come back. But if I'm Dallas, do you really want to bring him back in this situation? Prime time not even saying this undefeated team. Prime time against a very good Eagles defense that's getting pressure, that's getting turnovers, that's getting takeaways. I don't know if you want to do that, especially with what Cooper Rush is able to do. I keep him out and just to see how he. I think for him to come back, I need to see him get through a full week of practice.
So the Eagles are only allowing 17.6 points this year. If Jonathan Gannon keeps that number anywhere near that, is this his last year in Philly?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Okay.
The NFL circles seem to love that man, and we were so puzzled as fans trying to figure out why. Like, why is Jonathan Gannon getting all this love for like head coaching gigs, and now he's like showing why he potentially, could get that opportunity. And there, as always in the NFL, there's always going to be openings that come around. The carousel will keep spinning. So yeah, if he can continue to get this Eagles defense to perform the way it has, getting the takeaways and getting pressure and blitzing, which he has to do a little bit more continuously. If he does those things, and this team, is a top 10 defense, he's definitely going to get more consideration to be a head coach and possibly, should latch on somewhere else.
I gotta give him respect. The two things that I very much liked is well, I'll just say the main one is Hassan Reddick.
Yes.
I am he is letting that man rush the passer. That's all I ask. And
Yeah,
win
we
or
don't need him.
lose or
We don't need
draw.
him dropping back. We don't need him dropping back in coverage. That's not his game. I just need him to get to the quarterback.
There's a million guys in the league that if you need a guy, a defensive end to kind of play that joker or go back and forth, that's who you get. You don't get Hassan Reddick. You get Hassan Reddick to be a game wrecker, to go back there and do what he did against Trevor Lawrence, who is a quarterback who's rounding into shape to be I think Trevor Lawrence is going to be, I'm buying stock in Trevor Lawrence. So to frustrate that man and rip him twice at the end of the game, that's what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, that's what you paid him for. You didn't pay him on a 1-year deal to be like, all right, like how the Panthers did, 1-year deal. All right, we'll see what we get. No, you brought him in because you want him to be a difference maker, to add to that pass rush, because there's only so much that you were going to get out that pass rush coming into this year, just because Brandon Graham's getting up there in age. Derek Barnett, he's not so much a pass rusher than we thought he could have been coming out of school. And Josh Sweat, he needed someone on that opposite side to come help complement him. So having him, like you said, you want him to rush the passer. You don't need him dropping back in coverage. You got linebackers. Yes, you have linebackers who can drop back in coverage, not named Hassan Reddick.
So there's a name swirling around, and forgive me at the moment, it's failing me, from the Panthers for the Eagles to pick up the trade deadline asset. Are you familiar with who I'm talking about?
Are we talking offense or defense?
Defense. It's a defensive end.
Oh, Brian Burns?
Yes, Brian Burns. How do you feel about number 53 from Carolina? How do you feel about him?
I mean, Brian Burns will be nice. I mean, he's definitely, we're talking about, I think he's one of the more underrated pass rushers in the league, just because he plays for Carolina and everybody looks at the secondary that they've kind of, developed and, have Shaq Thompson at linebacker. So Brian Burns wouldn't be bad. It's just how much would it cost you to get a Brian Burns? I mean, luckily for the Eagles, they do have 2 first-round picks to maneuver with if necessary. However, if those first-round picks, become like top 10 picks, I don't know if you consider moving them, because you could end up getting, if you end up with a top 5 pick, you could add like a Will Anderson to this defense.
Yep. And just be patient.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, be patient and develop your next, another,
and you'll get him for 4 years instead of having to pay Brian Burns immediately.
Exactly. So if I'm the Eagles, it would be nice. Trust me, if we're playing like Madden and he's like, I'm about to go trade for Brian Burns. Like, yeah, that's great. But right now, nah. Your defense is doing his job. Don't mess up the chemistry.
So let's pick some of these week 6 games. Of course, we'll get to the Eagles, but we'll start around the league. We brought it up earlier in the show. The Commanders will play the Bears, and Vegas is like, we're not watching this game either. They don't even have a line on the game. But we're going to ask you, Jovan, what's your score prediction? What do you think is going to happen here?
Oh man, this is gonna be an ugly game. This is really gonna be an ugly game. I think right now, if I had to choose, I'll give the edge to Washington, even though I like Justin Fields as the better quarterback than Carson Wentz right now. They just have the more weapons on the skill positions than what the Bears have right now. And even defensively, I think they have some playmakers that could do some damage. So I'm going to lean towards the Commanders for that game, but I will not be betting it. I'm just telling you. I'm just saying that right now. Like, that's a game. I'm not playing sides, no totals, nothing like that. Maybe a Darryl Mooney anytime touchdown, because he hasn't scored one yet, so he's definitely due. So yeah, but if I had to pick, taking the Commanders begrudgingly.
So I'm taking the Bears. I'm taking the Bears 17-20.
I can
The
see that.
the Commanders have the lead late 17-13,
Uh-oh.
and Carson's it up. Pick six, fumble six,
Oh
night
man.
night Bears on Thursday night.
I have a friend who's a Bears fan, so I'm pretty sure he would like love that situation, to play out. It would give them something to talk about and be excited about for a Thursday night.
I'm
Yeah, I can see that
totally
happening. I can
I'm
see it
totally
happening.
hearing what you're saying about Daryl Mooney too. I think the Bears are due. The Bears are going to get themselves one offensive touchdown. So that's going
Mm-hmm.
to get them, and then they're going to probably get themselves 2 field goals, right?
Yup. There we go.
10,
There we go.
13.
There
The
you go.
Commanders are going to get to 17, and then Carson's good for one. The one he threw against Tennessee, maybe they lose. Maybe they just lose the game because
Mm-hmm.
they throw an incomplete pass. That
Right.
pass that Carson threw, tried to throw it low, and when the guy was double covered in that tight window there was no need for that on third down. It wasn't fourth down. It wasn't.
No. Again, you got to live to see another down, and he didn't do that there. But that's the Carson Wentz experience for you the last couple of years.
And then and the thing is, it's like he can get you to believe because he can make every throw. You get enticed. It's kind of a lusty kind
Yes.
of thing. It's like
Yes.
no. He good. That's my guy. Yeah.
Right. Like, no, that ain't my guy. He just do a game selling interception. No, it ain't my man. I'm all right.
I was done with him when he threw the one to Taki in that Browns game. I always talk about
Oh
that.
yeah, when he threw it, I think he tried to throw it to like Miles Sanders in the flat,
Yes.
and then the linebacker just sitting there. Yeah, yeah. I reference that all the time. I'm like, that was the most horrific interception I've seen. Like,
Is this so? Let's say if that happens, the scenario I just talked about that plays out. Is that the end of Carson and as their starting quarterback, or do you think that they would keep letting him play?
no, I think they would move. I think they would bench him because that would be what back-to-back weeks where you would have something like that happening. No, I don't think Ron Rivera would, sit around for that to play out again for potentially a third week. So I think they would bench him.
The Jaguars are 2-point underdogs at the Colts. What do you think about that game?
This honestly might be one of the better games of the week. I think this could be a very fun game just because the Jaguars are looking to bounce back because defensively they played well last week. Just offense was just garbage. And the Colts remember the beat down that the Jaguars gave them in Jacksonville. And I think they're going to learn that lesson. If Jonathan Taylor plays, then I like the Colts to win just because I don't think he's going to be held to like 54 yards on 9 carries again. I don't think Indianapolis is going to let that happen again. But if he doesn't play, I still like Jacksonville because I just think Jacksonville, and I think we saw it with the Eagles defensively. I think they're a very solid team defensively. So I'm gonna take Jacksonville. I'm gonna take Jacksonville just because we just don't know the uncertainty behind Jonathan Taylor right now. And Matt Ryan just doesn't inspire a lot of confidence in me.
No, that's what I'm totally going with the Jags. I'm going with Jags. I would take the line if it was Jags +6 or -6. I think they're going to beat them good. And Indy's kind of where more recently, kind of near Hall of Fame quarterbacks or good quarterbacks go to die. You got
They need to
Phillip
blow it up,
Rivers.
honestly.
Phillip Rivers. Now, I've never seen Matt Ryan play this. I've not been a Matt Ryan guy. Go rewind it back, everything. I am not a Matt Ryan guy, but he has never played this badly.
Not even his last year in Atlanta. Last year, he wasn't this bad. And he didn't have no weapons or an offensive line.
Yeah, Jags are actually a good football team. Time for them to bounce back. They'll get to 3-3. Colts will be at 2-4. That's more appropriate. Ravens are 5-point favorites against the Giants. What do you think? How you think our division friends are going to do against the Ravens?
Oh, I think the Giants lose this game. I think the Ravens go in there and beat them handedly. I think the Giants, they're a great story, right? 4-1. Brian Daboll, Saquon. is really having a great bounce back year. He's really showing them why he's a top 5 running back in the league this year. Not going to discredit that at all. But again, I'm not sold on, on their wide receiver unit. You don't know who's catching the ball for them, really. It's either Richie James or David Sills, and that's not the guys you want to be going against. And granted, Baltimore can give up big passing plays, but I don't see that happening against New York. I think they'll do a good job, and I think their running game will get going. I think, if they get their running game going like how we know they can, then I think they can, roll at least with a 7-point victory. So I'm going to take the Ravens minus the 5 to continue their winning streak and snap the Giants winning streak.
I'm with you 100%. If they can handle Burrow and Chase, they can handle everybody in New York.
Exactly.
They bring it back Amani Toomer and and Jeremy Shockey, because if not, they're about to take this L to Baltimore this Sunday, no doubt.
Yeah, they're gonna lose. And like I said, great story. Them being 4-1, but it's not a real 4-1. But again, you only can play who's on your schedule. But you look at even their wins. They've skated by a couple of teams that they should have blew out, if we want to be honest.
If they're good, if they were a good team, they wouldn't have skated by. This is the point.
The Panthers and the Bears and the Titans.
And we'll get them later, and we'll see what we do. We see what Philly's going to do about that.
Hey, you never know. Malik Willis could be starting by then. Just saying.
I think Malik Willis, and I'll say this early, I think now this isn't about anything, his life choices or anything, but physical traits, the way he moves around, talents. Malik Willis is a young Deshaun Watson. Said it here first. Malik Willis, once he gets in, it's going to be his job. That dude is going to be a young star.
I agree. I'm a big fan of his, so I would love to see it.
Niners are 5.5-point favorites at the Falcons, who got completely hosed on Sunday, which we talked about earlier. Are you taking the points there?
This might be a shocker to some, but yes, I'm taking Atlanta plus the 5.5.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and it's based off of this notion, just because Atlanta, despite their record, I think they play a lot of teams really hard this year. They've been competitive. Arthur Smith has had this team playing competitive football. Last week they were competitive. I mean, they went to LA and almost won that game. They just beat the Browns not too long ago by a couple of points. So they're not like you said, they're not the greatest team. They lack in a lot of departments, but they continue just to play their game. And I think the Niners are one of those teams where they're not like, they have players on offense, right? They have the Debos, the Ayuks, the Kittles, but Ayuk and Kittle have yet to go off this season. Yep. And Debo will only have like 1 touchdown, I think.
That's
and
right.
Jimmy G is just Jimmy G. So I think the Falcons will keep it close. Mariota has done very serviceable as the starter. So I'm taking the Falcons plus 5.5. Because they're also 5-0 against the spread this year. They are this year's Lions in covering the spread.
Yes, I think they'll cover the spread, but I think that they lose the game.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. They'll cover, but they're going to lose. It's not like one of the situations where it's like, hey, we're telling you guys they're going to cover and they're going to win this game.
Right. Don't bet on them winning the game.
No, don't do that. We don't recommend that at all.
The Bills are 3.5-point favorites at Kansas City. What do you think about that game?
This is going to be a good game. 3.5. I think I could take the Chiefs in the points here, just because I don't trust neither team's secondary. We saw what just happened on Monday night. That KC defense can be tested and you can beat them. And even the same thing with Buffalo, they're pretty much banged up. Tre'Davious White still isn't back. They had a couple rookies starting out there. I don't know if Christian Benford's back, the Villanova product. Don't know if he's back, playing. So they can give up some points too. Obviously, that didn't happen against the Steelers. They straight up demolished them. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, but I think KC, I think KC I think they're gonna keep it. They're gonna keep it close because I think they can actually run the ball too, which is something that I think we haven't been able to say. Like they actually have a solid run game with Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Isaiah Pacheco.
But yet, when y'all play your DFS this week, a little cheat sheet here. Play Sky Moore, play Isaiah Pacheco. Andy Reid holds his cards close to his chest. He knew that this game was going to be on the schedule. They're coming out this week. Chiefs win by more than 4. I think the Chiefs win this game by more than enough. I mean, they definitely cover this. I mean, I think the Chiefs are going to outright win the game. So
I could see it. These teams always put on a show when they play each other, and I don't expect nothing different. Different.
And then it leads into the main event, the Cowboys at the Eagles. Eagles are 5-point favorites in that one. What do you think about that?
I think the Eagles win that, but I think Dallas will cover that number. I think that's too large of a number I think it was almost the same spread that they had against the Rams. And I think Dallas defensively, I think they'll be able to keep it close. And I think, for the Eagles, it's going to be, can you play a full 4 quarters? And that means, not leaning on that second quarter surge that you always have. You didn't have it last week, and we saw how close the game is. And I think Dallas defense is solid. So I think the Eagles will win, but Dallas, I think they will definitely cover the spread.
26-23 Eagles.
Yeah.
Victor the kicker, once again.
Yeah. he'll be an Eagles fandom lore next to like AJ Feely and all backup quarterbacks and all preseason stars like Henry Josie. He's going to be up there with those guys.
Reno Mahe.
Yeah, Reno. Yes. Brandon Boykin. I mean, you can start adding the guys to the Hall of Fame.
Brandon Boykin, speaking of players who had a great Eagles moment, that pick that won the Eagles the NFC
in Dallas.
East. NFC East, not the NFC Championship, but the NFC East. Yeah, the game Kyle Orton started because the Eagles beat the brakes off of the Bears that week before, while the Cowboys were losing to whoever they were losing to.
Mm-hmm.
Tony Romo hurt his back, so Kyle Orton came in and played pretty well, but Brandon Boykin stepped in front, ended the season.
Eagles, another moment in Eagles Cowboys history. Always good for one of them.
Absolutely. So I probably won't get you before the Sixers season kicks off, but how are you feeling about James Harden losing all that weight and about our chances? For me personally, it's hard for me to get worked up to think that we're going to do anything but what we've done, which is a second round exit. Do you think that you think I'm being pessimistic there, or?
No, I think you're pessimistic. I think your pessimism is right, just because, like you said, this team is known for second round exits, and they have to prove to not only themselves but to the fan base that they can get past those second round woes. However, I will say I think, for what people wanted this team to do, to add, another player or add a Bradley Beal or someone of that caliber, I think this team's in great shape, and I think they're going to do fine. Obviously, regular season, they're going to do their thing, and I think they're going to make a deep run this year. I think they definitely get past the second round, and I think they get to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time in a while, which we haven't seen. Because right now, the only team in the East that really scares me right now, or I think is formidable, is the Milwaukee Bucks right now. Like Boston, I don't know what Boston was a one-hit wonder, or if they're going to.
And they've had not normal. Let's just say that.
Not normal off season. You got a rookie head coach stepping in, so that's going to be that's just going to be a learning experience from there. Brooklyn, we don't know what we're going to get with Brooklyn. Don't even know what type of time Kyrie, Ben, and KD going to be on. They might not all like each other by midseason. Who knows? But I think this Sixer team is deep. I think they have defense with Tucker and, with PJ Tucker and, DeAnthony Melton. Then they added some shooting with Daniel House, and Tucker can shoot a little bit. Melton, again, gives them something off the bench. So I think
they're going to be feeling the bench. I think you're optimistic about the bench production this year.
Yeah, I think the bench will be all right. I think, with Matisse coming off the bench now, You don't have him in that starter's role. I think that's going to be good for him. D'Anthony Melton, I think, is definitely going to help because he can give you that combo guard, can play at the 1, also can do a little bit things at the 2. House, if he can be that 3-and-D guy that you've been lacking, I think that's great. Paul Reed, I think, continues to take that step in his development and really become that energy guy, along with Montrezl Harrell, who I think that's a great guy to learn from. If you want to be energy and hustle and getting boards and things like that, being an offensive playmaker, there's a guy that won 6th man of the year not too long ago. So I think the bench is in great shape. And you got Korkmaz. You can't forget about him. He has his moments. And you can't forget about Shake Milton. Shake Milton's still there. And so he's going to get buckets. That's my guy.
You gotta love it when Shake's getting buckets. It's like once every 10, 15 games at this point, unfortunately.
And it's a moment too when he does it.
Everybody loves it. Everybody loves when Shake is getting buckets.
It just gets the crowd going. It gets people going. I always tell people when my favorite Shake game is when he's dropped those 39 points against the Clippers a couple years back against Doc Rivers. Man was taking Paul George off the dribble.
It's hilarious. Oh, man. Well, Jovan, thanks so much for coming on. You were, of course, flexible, and it's a fantastic conversation as always. Tell the people where we can follow along and show you some support.
Hey, no problem, man. Appreciate it for having me on. You can follow me on Twitter at Jovan10. You can follow the Total Sports Live podcast, TSL podcast on all the streaming platforms, Total Sports Live right there. Check out TotalSportsLive.com. Got a lot of good stuff on there, Philly sports stuff. Me and my guys, writing a whole bunch of stuff. Got Eagles, Phillies, Sixers starting, Delaware Blue Coat season starting. Got UPenn football, so there's a whole bunch of stuff going on right there. And then, like I said, you can follow there on Twitter at Total Sports Live. So, yeah, appreciate you for having me on as always.
All right. Thank you, Jovan. Take care. Thank you guys for listening. It's a honorable mention _ podcast on Instagram, and it's mention pod on Twitter.